Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Today we are here for the elite race in the Zwift World Series. This is race number 3. Reminder, I'm representing BL13 in this series because Aero don't have any riders and I've got strong links with the BL13 crew. We're about to get underway. Today we are on the Yorkshire double loops course, my first time over the course, but as you will know, being Yorkshire, it's going to be a very punchy one, especially up against an elite field like this. 50 of the best in the world, plenty of guys that I met at Worlds, and this is my first real intensity since Worlds. So, a quick intro while the race gets underway. I don't really have any goals at all today, apart from making the time cut to get valuable points to qualify for the Zwift Games. Only the top 50 for the year qualify for Zwift Games. So by being in this race after getting the series pass last time, I should kind of further boost myself up that leaderboard. So the goal is literally to get around. I've had some time off since the Worlds. My plan is to peak for the Zwift Games in March. I'll chuck a little diagram up here of what I've done since Worlds, how I've cut the training back for a little bit, treated myself to some well-earned rest, and then here is how that looks in terms of fitness score, according to Strava's analytics. So you can see there's been a significant drop off, given that the Worlds was literally less than 3 weeks ago. I've always found myself as someone who does lose fitness pretty quickly compared to some people. On the flip side of that, I do find that I tend to gain fitness in that same regard. So a bit of downtime now hopefully means that I get to March raring to go in tip-top condition. So there were no expectations on today's race apart from get around. Now, in terms of the course profile, I'll put it up on the screen now. It's a punchy one. I like Yorkshire usually because if you are smart with your power, you can really save watts. Now, that usually puts me in good stead to have something left for the key moments or to finish well. But in today's race, I was hoping that would be a case of it might allow me to survive a bit longer than my power possibly would on this day in another circumstance. So my plan is to be really crafty on those descents. And if I could get over Potbank with the lead group, that would be a win today. I probably didn't expect for me to do so, but that would be the goal. Now I'm going to quickly show you some snippets from the descent. Remembering that as you hit the bottom of these descents on this course, you're going 60 plus Ks an hour. That is so many watts saved being in the draft that you can cruise up the first part of the next climb to save a lot of energy or propel yourself forward with power into the next Kickr. So the pace wasn't as hot as I expected on this initial KOM, luckily. My heart rate's still already pretty high, but I expected to be fully maxing out on this one, which wasn't the case. Now, another thing that went against me, because I've had a bit of a rest, that's come with a bit more crap eating. I deserve it. It's been fun. But yeah, the weight today was 66.4 kilos. So that's going to impact me on all the climbs compared to my usual 63 or 64 for Zwift. But it's actually a 5 kilo gain from my very last race. So it's significant over the first climb, and we are there. All right, we have crafted our way down that descent, just starting to pick up a little bit of speed now for this climb. As I said, you hit it at 60k an hour, so on this orange gradient, you can literally just cruise until you slow down. So that's the plan here, not doing anything, and I still almost get to the front at some stage. This allows you, obviously, to get quite a way up the climb without wasting too much energy. So I didn't have too much trouble getting up this one, although I think towards the top a few tried to get away. That wasn't my business today. I was just trying to hang with the majority of the group. So we're just really cruising down before the Potbank climb here. As you can see, I'm saving watts towards the back. Yeah, I'm a pretty lightweight rider, but when you're going this speed on this gradient, there's just so many watts to be saved that I know a lot of people wouldn't be right now. Not giving all away the tricks of the trade, but this section of the course, it's just the guys who really know how to draft on Zwift do that really well. Now, coming into Potbank, this was where I was super scared. I knew I didn't have much punch today, having done no intensity since Wells. So this was going to really sting, and I was my fate was pretty much dependent on the power of the other riders around. So let's get into it. You got to kick it up to keep your speed up before you go. Everyone launches massive numbers. I thought I was doing okay numbers myself. Obviously, the watts per kilo aren't as good today, but this is how it plays out. Have a look at them go. Still punching some pretty solid watts. I'm normally one of those guys at the front that are making everyone hurt, but have a look at me here. My bike's too small as well. On a positive note, I have heard that Mackay Cycles and Specialized are hopefully going to be sending me a replacement frame. So hopefully for the remainder of the Zwift World Series, we can sort something like that, because not happy with the size of this one, the old bike. It's a bit of a struggle. And this was the key moment. I'm in 47th out of 50. The rest are streaming accounts. Literally towards the back. This is my race right here. This is where, when I'm at the front, you want to keep pushing on so people like me don't get back on. But at the same time, you don't want to be the one wasting the watts at the front. So I think I get lucky here. I'm hurting quite a bit, and I just managed to make contact before we get over. And I wouldn't say safe, but I am in for now. Now, job here is to just stay with. People were stringing it out. You can see on the mini map there's a group ahead, so that's why we don't really ease off. So I had to keep a pretty honest tempo for a lot of this section, but we do eventually make contact. And I knew if I made contact here, I'd probably get at least 10 more K with the lead group. Very strung out, but I am there. Make it up the next riser with the crew, not too many dramas. And as you can see, the heart rate has steadied down to 120-ish beats a minute. So it has been a really nice, comfortable descent on the back. This buys myself a few more kilometres for sure with this main pack. So goal achieved. But as you can see in Yorkshire, when you're going at these kind of speeds, you don't have to do many watts at all. Some of the guys in this pack would have been doing a lot more than me right now and not getting anything for it. So I'm just cruising along. We're about to pick up a feather power up before the preem at the Queen's Highway sprint. So there's going to be an increase in effort because there's money on the line in about 3 kilometres. So this has been pretty strung out now for a while with the money on the line. As you can see, I'm pretty much just a participant watching it happen today rather than someone that's actually contending in the race. So I'm hanging on here, making sure I stay with the majority of the group, using that first feather power up. You can see the guys who get the cash are well up on that mini map. We're safe, but it's another little few matches burnt for a guy that's not in the shape that he wants to be in. Another little pinch point. This one's very draftable, but in my head I was still telling myself, like, treat it like life or death. My heart rate is into the 170, so I'm working hard, even though the watts per kilo aren't super impressive. But you can see the pack stretched out on the road, so that's a sign that the pace isn't super hot. There was a guy up the road in a breakaway, so no one was like super actively chasing that with so much racing left to come. So that kind of worked in my favour pretty well here. Again, I bought myself another few kilometres. So heading into the Potbank descent now, another chance to save some watts. Once that gradient gets steep and the speed is high, you can really ease off the gas. And then there's a little rise around the corner, which at these kind of speeds, 80k an hour, you really barely have to pedal to stay with the group. And then being at the back is fine because then you kick over into another downhill and you can relax again. Whereas a lot of people are probably pushing a little bit more on the front. That's fine. This climb wasn't super hard. A few guys do try. I think Ed Laverack tries to start to bridge to the leader. There's another preem coming up in a couple of K. And for me, that's where I thought my race would probably end, being a steep KOM and close to the finish line. So I fully had in my head that my race was on borrowed time at this stage. So another chance to save some watts. There's no need to pedal at this kind of speed in this group with no one on the front pushing significantly. This, in my mind, this was going to be the key moment. I almost had in my head already that with the money on the line here and being so close to the finish, that with my current fitness that I would need that feather. So I make a split second decision here to use the feather when we're at high speed to lift that watts per kilo by 10% here to keep the speed high for the next 30 seconds. It was a bit of a survival tactic for someone that honestly thought it was going to be difficult. Now, hindsight is a wonderful thing. There's some chance that I might have made it over this KOM without that feather. But by the top, I was pretty all out. So I can't say that with confidence. But it may impact what happens in the last couple of K of the race because this is the final power up that we get. And I knew that. But again, I was kind of, aiming for survival at this point, thinking that if I get over this one, obviously I'm going to be contending. Whereas if I don't even make it there with a feather, what's the point? So heading up the top of the KOM, I'm completely all in. Well, I certainly felt that way anyway. The watts are, they're pretty high here for someone who hasn't put in the work the last couple of weeks. So we get over, it's strung out, but I am still making contact with some names that are going to be there for the finish. So maybe I could have done it without the without the feather power up. I don't know. As I said, hindsight's a wonderful thing. Another chance to save some watts down this descent. Chance to get the heart rate down, settle things up for that final KOM coming up in about 3 or 4 Ks time. Now, the winning move actually goes in this section. You can see those red dots up on the mini-map. They, I think, hang on. So, great ride by those guys. Pretty happy for Dan Turek. Met him in Abu Dhabi a few weeks ago, and he's an absolute legend. So a great win from him. Watch the Zwift official stream if you want to see what happened at the pointy end of the race. But as you can see here, I've guaranteed a top 39 finish, which is probably better than I expected going into the race. Just sitting on the back here, making sure I'm safe. Again, trying to say a bit of 0 watts here and there, just feathering that power as we head into the last couple of kilometres. Now, you'll see, I might put these graphics up here now. I was pretty happy with the watts per kilo today and how I saved energy in good places. 20-minute watts per kilo sorted from least to most. Look at that. So, obviously, my peak 20-minute for the race was not very high. So, that shows that I was efficient. And then, in terms of 15 and 30 seconds, I was the lowest of the entire field. So to manage to stay in there, very happy with that, given the poor numbers that I produced for those time periods today. All right, we're into the final K now. Without a feather, but, at this stage, I certainly didn't expect to be contending. The pace on the first orange bit of the KOM wasn't as hot as I expected, so I've hung in for longer than I thought already. But I knew as soon as someone kicks, it was going to get wild pretty quick, and I was going to be shown the back door straight away. So we'll play out the last 800 meters. I was expecting once we hit this orange gradient that it was just going to be a 1 minute all in. Let's see what we've got left off. Not much work. I'll let it to play now. Um, so I kind of have a feeling of what's left in the legs. I wasn't watching the left-hand side, but I was just trying to ride a steady power with what was left, and it just seemed pretty steady in the 500 watt range for me. Now, again, I would like a bigger bike so I can really drive those knees. I don't like the position on the old bike at all. Um, into the last 300 meters, I see the two Wahoo guys ahead, and I think that I can get them with a bit of a kick. But there's not much left in the tank at this point as I come around. The watts are pretty steady. We do manage to just dip into 600 there, and we're not going to catch anyone else today. So it's a 32nd place. For that, we get 44 points for the Zwift World Series. I obviously missed the first one of those because of the World's qualifiers. So my Zwift World Series was never a chance. So I was happy to kind of decide to have a break and just accumulate the points to get into the Zwift game. So I've done that. Got about a 50 or 60 point buffer on the in and out line there. So it's all looking fine there. Regardless of what happens in the last two races. I do expect to be in good form by the final World Series race. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed some of the content in this one from a different perspective, as someone more just hanging on rather than really kind of at the pointy end. Thanks for the feedback and comments lately. It's cool to grow the channel. Leave a couple of comments if you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.